If you are watching this video, you're getting a leg up on your Unit 3 test by watching the Unit 3 review video. Please make sure to have your notes out so you can jot down the examples as we go through each learning target one by one. The first learning target is 3A, graphing and analyzing functions. You have two problems below. In the first one, it's asking you to create a graph of the situation. In the second problem, it's asking you 4 questions based on the graph on the right. Go ahead and pause the video as you look over these questions, create the graph, answer the 4 questions on the bottom, and when you're ready to see the answer, we can hit play and see the answer on the following slide. Here we can see that since Bob finds $20 under his couch, our graph should start at 20. Since he's saving $4 per week, it should be going up 4 each time. So we should have the point 1, 24, 2, 28, 3, 32, so forth and so on. If you have your graph that looks like this, you included a title and labels along both axes, you have a correct graph that would get you full points on the test. If we look down below at the 4 questions based on the graph where we're analyzing, the first question is, during what time was Ryan traveling the fastest? Well, we look at our graph and we look for the spot where the graph is increasing at the highest rate. Ryan would be traveling the fastest between hours 3 and 4 because he covers 50 miles during that time. The second question is, during what period did Ryan take his break from writing? His break would be represented by the spot in the graph that is horizontal and there's no change in distance from home. We can see that this happens between the 4th and 6th hours where he takes his break. How far was Ryan from home after 3 hours? We go to 3 hours on the graph, or on the axis, we look up to where our graph is and we see it's at 20 miles from home, so our answer is 20 miles. At what time or times was Ryan 50 miles from home? So now we go to 50 miles, we go over to our graph and see that at one spot he is about 3.5 hours when he was 50 miles from home. And if we keep going over right, it hits 50 again at about 6.5 hours. So we list both points, 3.5 hours and 6.5 hours. Our second learning target is 3B, identifying functions from relations, so being able to determine whether something is a function or not. Go ahead and pause the video as you determine whether each of these 3 situations is a function, and then hit play when you're ready to see the answer on the next slide. Here we can see on our graph that it is not a function because it has a spot in the graph that is vertical. If you were to draw a vertical line, you could touch more than one point on the graph. Therefore, we say it is not a function. Here in our table, we can see that it's also not a function. The 2 points that are highlighted both have an x-coordinate of 2, but have different y values. If you have the same x value, you must have the same y value in order for it to remain a function. And down below here in our set of coordinate points, we see that we do have a function, because although we see 4 is listed twice as an x value, it has the same y value of 10 both times. Therefore, it is a function. Learning target 3C, writing equations to represent functions. Pause the video and take a minute to write an equation to represent each of the following situations: the picture and patterns task, the table, and the situation story problem. Go ahead and do this. When you're ready to see the answers, hit play and you can move on to the next slide and check your work. Here we can see in our patterns task that our equation should have been y equals 3x plus 3. In step 1 we had one group of 3, in step 2 we had 2 groups of 3, in step 3 we had 3 groups of 3. There's always these 3 squares that we denoted with purple dots. That's that constant plus 3 at the end. So we get our equation y equals 3x plus 3. When we look at our table, we see that it starts at 10, So that goes at the end, and it's changing by 2 each time. It's going up by 2. So we say it is 2x plus 10. Down in the bottom here, it says that Gladys has $700 in her bank account and that she saved over the summer. Once she went back to college, she began spending $50 per week on groceries. As we look at this, it starts at 700 and we're losing $50 per week, so it'd be 700 minus 50x. Our fourth learning target is 3D, creating graphs to represent functions. On the left-hand side here, you can see that we have a table, a situation, and an equation. And on the right-hand side, we have graph A, graph B, and graph C. Please match each situation, table, or function to the appropriate graph. Go ahead and pause the video while you do this, and hit play when you're ready to see the answer. If we look carefully at the table, we see that we start at the point 0, -2. We go to the point 1, 1, and 2, 4. So as we're looking at our graph, we see that B has these points represented on our graph. So we know that the table matches graph B. In our second situation, it says that Mr. Williamson started his basketball game with a water bottle full of 32 ounces of Gatorade. Each quarter he drank 6 ounces. So we know that it must start at 32 and go down by 6 each time x changes by 1. So we look up at graph A and see that it starts at 32 and goes down by 6 each time you go over by 1. In the last situation, we have f of x equals -5x minus 2. As we look at this, we look at graph C and we know it starts at -2 and it's going down by 5 each time. Therefore, graph C matches our function. Our last learning target is 3E arithmetic sequences. The first question is you are determining the D value for the following arithmetic sequence. The second question is you're writing the explicit formula for the following arithmetic sequence. And in the third question, you are finding the 30th term in the following arithmetic sequence. Remember that initial formula, look back at your notes or possibly the 3E video. Go ahead and pause this video, answer the questions, and then hit play when you're ready to see the last answers to the review. In question 1, we can see that it's going up by 5 each time, so we say that D equals plus 5. In question 2, we can see that we start at 19, so our a sub 1 value is 19, and it's going down by 6 each time. So we subtract 6. So it's 19 minus 6 times n minus 1. And in 3, when we're finding the 30th term of the arithmetic sequence, we know that our initial value a sub 1 is -3, and that we're going up by 7 each time, so it's plus 7 times, and we plug in 30 for n because we want the 30th term. 30 minus 1 gives us 29. If you multiply by 7, you get 203. And if you subtract 3, you get 200. So a sub 30 equals 200. That would be the 30th term. You could have done it this way. You also could have drawn it out. But being able to use the explicit formula to calculate this is much quicker and much more efficient for you. Think about if you have any questions and come ask before your class tomorrow so that you can get those answered before the test. Good luck.